What if I told you marathons are no longer being won on the asphalt? What if the place creating the most dangerous runners on the planet isn't a track or a marathon? Why do some athletes attack while everyone else is just trying to survive? Why do we keep seeing more violent, faster, more unpredictable finishes every year? Is it really talent, or is something being trained in silence? There's a kind of race where running pretty doesn't matter, where there are no pacers, where the body learns to move forward when the mind wants to quit. You don't go there to win. You go there to break everyone else. And what's happening there explains why Kenya, Uganda, and Ethiopia are still a step ahead, why Europe arrives strong but arrives late, and why the future of running is already being written, even if almost no one is looking at it. If you want to understand where the next marathon monsters are being built, stay, because this isn't about a race. It's about how the runners who will change everything are being made. This isn't just another championship, and it's not a coincidence. It happens on January 10th, when most of the world is still building base fitness. It happens in Tallahassee, Florida, far from the European spotlight. No packed stadiums, no easy records, no filters. Here, your personal best doesn't matter. Your resume doesn't matter. What matters is what you do when your body starts to fail. The date changes everything. It forces you to train early, to arrive strong when others are still sharpening, to expose yourself before there's anywhere to hide. And the place matters too. Uneven ground, broken rhythms, no smooth running. The ones who come here don't do it to look good. They do it to get tough. This race tests one simple thing. Can you keep the pace when the terrain betrays you? Can you change gears with no rhythm cues? Can you run uncomfortable for a long time? That has a direct consequence. The athletes who dominate here don't wait for the finish when they get to the asphalt. When they reach half marathons and marathons, they already know what it feels like to run on real fatigue. That's why when you see someone attack early, when you see a race break too soon, the reason usually isn't what they did that day. It's what they learned here. Uganda doesn't rely on one man, and that's what makes them dangerous. Jacob Kiplimo is the face, yes, but behind him is an entire system of runners trained the same way. There's Joshua Cheptegei, a man who learned pain in cross-country before he conquered the track. He doesn't come to learn, he comes to impose, to set a hard rhythm when no one else dares. When he accelerates on rough ground, it's not an experiment, it's muscle memory. And around them, new names appear, less famous, but essential. Young, aggressive, fearless athletes like Dan Kibet, Kenneth Kiprop, and others like them. They don't wait for opportunities. They create chaos from the start. Uganda doesn't run to control the race. It runs to disorder it. Some attack early. Some sustain the pace. Others finish it off once everyone else is cracked. That's what they train for, teamwork without visible alliances. Constant pace changes. Continuous pressure. Facing Uganda in cross-country isn't racing one person. It's racing multiple possible scenarios. You never know who will tighten the rope, only that someone will. And that's their greatest weapon. By the time they reach the half or full marathon, they don't need to improvise. They've already learned how to run when everything collapses around them. Uganda isn't producing distance specialists. They're producing complete runners. Runners who know modern races aren't won by waiting. They're won by breaking everyone else before they even realize it's happening. Kenya plays a different game. Their danger isn't one superstar. It's depth. It starts with Daniel Ebenyo, the kind of runner who never lets you feel comfortable. If the pace drops, he surges. If the group relaxes, he breaks it. He doesn't need to win to do damage. It's enough to empty everyone else. Then comes Agnes Jebet Ngetich, pure power. Able to sustain high speeds when the ground fights back. She doesn't hide in cross-country, she selects. And then Beatrice Chebet, all talent, but even more grit. She understands cross-country the way it should be understood. Not as a beautiful race, but as a mental and physical war. And that's only the surface. Behind them are dozens more you've never heard of. All doing the same thing. Pushing, holding, attacking again. In Kenya, cross-country isn't preparation. It's formation. They learn to run in groups without packs, to change rhythm without warning, to read an opponent's fatigue before their own. That's why facing Kenya is so hard. Because when one steps aside, another takes over. When you think the pace drops, it spikes again. And when you look back, the pack is gone. Kenya doesn't seek one perfect attack. It seeks constant wear, minute by minute, kilometer by kilometer. So when they get to the road, to the half marathon, to the marathon, they don't need a new strategy. They already know how to run when the body is at the edge. They already know how to win when others just want to finish. That's Kenya, not one name, but a system that suffocates you. Ethiopia doesn't announce itself. That's what makes it lethal. While others make noise, they arrive quietly. And by the time you react, it's too late. Their flag bearer is Berihu Aregawi, a runner who doesn't need chaos to hurt you. He runs fast when he should, and keeps running fast when others hesitate. He doesn't attack spectacularly. He just refuses to let the pace fall. And that's what kills you. Then comes Thierry Ndikumwenayo, a runner who makes cross-country look effortless, fluid, calm, no visible suffering, even when the effort is savage. The kind of athlete who looks under control, until you check the clock and realize she's pulling away. Ethiopia also brings runners like Yomif Kejelcha, track speed, applied to rough terrain. They learn to use that speed when the ground drags and the legs won't respond. That's their trick. They don't look aggressive. They don't look desperate. But they never ease up. Ethiopia doesn't break races with one strike. It breaks them through silent wear, kilometer by kilometer, decision by decision. When you race them, you don't feel attacked. You just slowly realize you can't keep doing what you were doing. And when they get to the asphalt, it's the same story. No violent surges, just a rhythm no one else can hold. That's why Ethiopia remains deadly. Because when everything looks calm, they're already winning. Europe comes with titles, and that changes perception. The European champion is Thierry Ndikumwenayo, solid, steady, built for sustained pace. In Europe, that wins. Because European cross-country rewards control. In women, Nadia Battocletti, technical, smart, a master at reading races. She knows when to wait, when to move, and rarely makes mistakes. Behind them, the new blood, Maria Forero, U23 champion, real talent, clear progression. Europe sees her as the future. The message is clear. Europe knows how to run well. But here's the clash. Cross-country at the world level isn't always won by running well. It's won when the plan breaks. And that's where Norway enters. Everyone knows the name Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Absolute precision, perfect training, total rhythm control. But that system is designed to control, to execute, to minimize error. The problem? In this kind of race, no one asks your permission to break your plan. Norway builds brilliant runners. Jacob, Narve Nordas, Philip Ingebrigtsen. Strong, disciplined, intelligent, but used to an environment where chaos can be managed. Here, chaos rules. When a Ugandan accelerates for no reason. When a Kenyan surges again after a brutal attack. When an Ethiopian keeps steady pressure without showing fatigue. Europe hesitates, looks at the watch, asks, is it too soon? And that single second of doubt decides the race. It's not a lack of talent, it's a lack of exposure. European cross-country proves Europe can run well. World cross-country proves who can survive when the script burns. That's why so many European champions arrive confident and leave humbled. Because there's a huge difference between running well and surviving when the race turns savage. This isn't about tradition. It's about adaptation. Cross-country is creating something specific. Runners who know how to perform when everything goes wrong. Here, they train real fatigue. Not the pretty kind in the final sprint. The kind when the pace has already changed 3 times and there's still a long way to go. They train running without references, without stable rhythm, without knowing when the next attack will come. They train something crucial, not negotiating with pain. That's why these runners can accelerate when others just want to hold on. That's why they can change pace without warning. That's why they don't panic when a race breaks earlier than expected. Cross-country doesn't just build the body. It builds the mind. It teaches you that pain doesn't always mean stop. That chaos isn't always a threat. That many races are won the moment others start doubting. That's why we're seeing more aggressive finishes, Races breaking before kilometer 30. Paces that once looked suicidal, now sustained. It's not magic. It's uncomfortable training, repeated for years. Cross-country doesn't make beautiful champions. It makes runners who are hard to kill. And here's the real point. This doesn't stay here. What's being trained in these races is exactly what we're now seeing on the asphalt. Marathons with fewer tactics. Less waiting. Longer attacks. Runners who don't save energy for the end because they don't need to. Races where the group doesn't reach 30K together. Where the suffering starts much earlier. Races won not by patience, but by resistance to chaos. That's why finishes keep getting wilder. That's why new names keep appearing, capable of holding inhuman paces. That's why the modern marathon isn't run the old way. Cross-country is the laboratory. The road is the showcase. Everything is tested here first. Here they fail. Here they learn. So when these runners step onto the half or full marathon, they're not improvising. They're repeating what they've already mastered when no one was watching. That's why this championship matters so much. Because it doesn't speak about the present. It speaks about the future of running. While most people are obsessed with times and records, this is what's happening in the background. Here's where the next world beaters are being forged. Not in a year, soon. Because once a runner learns to suffer here, they're never the same. They no longer need perfect conditions. They no longer need ideal weather. They no longer wait for the perfect moment. They can attack earlier, hold longer, and keep going when everyone else breaks. That's why some names seem to appear out of nowhere on the marathon stage and look unstoppable. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's because they've already raced when no one else dared. And while most are still staring at finish lines and times, the most dangerous ones are already preparing their next step, quietly. Because here, it's not about who wins today. It's about who will rule tomorrow. If this video made you see races differently, stick around. We're still uncovering how running is changing and who's going to dominate it. Because the next great attacks won't catch you by surprise if you know where to look. See you in the next video.